Star Citizen just revealed how base rating will work across multiple server shards, and it's completely different from what anyone expected. While the community's been theorizing about seamless warfare for years, CIG dropped this technical bombshell that reframes how player conflict will actually function. This isn't just about shooting at someone's buildings. This is about a cross-shard combat system that could either be brilliant or create the most exploitable mess in MMO history. If you've been following Star Citizen's base building development, you probably assumed you understood the basics. Build base, people attack base, defend or lose base. Simple survival game mechanics, right? But CIG's latest developer response about land claims and raids shatters that assumption with technical complexity that most players haven't even considered yet. This system changes how you'll approach PvP strategy, ORG warfare, and even which server region you choose to call home. And the kicker? Base building isn't even in the game yet, but understanding this now gives you a massive advantage when it launches. You're looking at a regional shard structure where your land claim exists as identical copies across every server in your region: Europe, North America, Asia. But raids can only happen on one specific shard at a time, determined by where the base owner is currently playing. Think multiple dimensions of the same universe, but combat locked to just one dimension. Most players assume this is temporary until server meshing gets fully implemented. But dig deeper and you realize this solves the fundamental problem that's plagued every survival MMO. How do you balance persistent structures with fair PvP? EVE Online tried it with reinforcement timers. Rust just lets people get wiped while offline. Star Citizen's attempting something nobody's tried before, making the owner's presence determine raid availability across multiple server instances. This shard system eliminates offline raiding completely. In Rust or ARK, you log off and wake up to find your base destroyed by players who attacked while you were sleeping. Your months of work gone because someone in a different time zone decided to raid at 3 a.m. In Star Citizen, if you're not online, your base cannot be attacked on any shard. Period. The moment you log in, that becomes the shard where raids become possible. Picture running a mining operation on Daymar. Your base processes ore, refineries churn away, everything's productive while you're online. Log off, complete invulnerability. No 3 a.m. raids from players halfway across the world. No logging in to discover months of progress wiped while you were at work. But human nature kicks in hard here. Strategic players will server hop to avoid conflicts, deliberately staying on low population shards to minimize raid risks. CIG accidentally created a system where your online presence directly determines vulnerability, which means paranoid players will game the system by hiding on empty servers. The most successful base owners might be the ones who master server selection rather than base defense. You know what's wild? If you're the type of person who thinks about these systems before they launch, and you obviously are since you're still watching, you're already ahead of 90% of players who will just stumble into base building when it drops. That kind of forward thinking is exactly why you should probably hit that subscribe button, because we're going to need people who actually understand these mechanics when the chaos starts. When you attempt to attack a base on the wrong shard, the game offers to transfer you to the correct one, the shard where the owner is currently playing. Just think about the implications. You're flying your Retaliator with org mates, approaching an enemy organization's mining base on Microtech. Attack run begins. Weapons hot. Coordination perfect. Suddenly, transfer to combat shard? Click yes, and you're potentially on a server with completely different conditions, different players, maybe different server performance. Your carefully planned 40-person assault could become complete chaos as players transfer at different times, spawn in different locations, or hit server capacity limits preventing half your force from joining. The logistics of warfare just became exponentially more complex than any MMO has attempted. But there's a darker possibility nobody's talking about. What if large organizations deliberately fill servers to capacity, making it impossible for attackers to transfer in? You could have an unraidable base simply by maintaining enough online members to block server transfers. CIG hasn't addressed this scenario, and it could break the entire system before it launches. You know that sinking feeling when you spend weeks planning something perfect, only to have reality completely blindside you? Picture spending weeks coordinating an assault on a rival org's industrial complex. 20 players, coordinated loadouts, synchronized timing, everyone knows their role. You arrive at target coordinates and the base is there, but it's like a ghost town. No players, no activity, just empty buildings sitting there like a movie set. The enemy org was playing on a different shard that night, using server selection as a defensive strategy. You were attacking a copy of their base while they conducted business as usual elsewhere. That frustration hits different when you realize you've been outmaneuvered by server architecture rather than superior tactics. Star Citizen's base warfare isn't about firepower anymore. It's about understanding server infrastructure as core gameplay. CIG plans shared inventories across shards, but combat isolation. Your base's store inventory syncs across all regional shards, meaning players can buy from your shop regardless of server. But the physical base can only be attacked on one shard at a time. This creates strategic depth no other MMO has attempted. You could run commercial operations serving customers across multiple shards while maintaining military security through shard management. Advanced players will establish bases in different regions, secure manufacturing in North America, high-traffic retail in Europe, resource extraction in Asia. The economic implications are staggering. You could corner markets across multiple shards while remaining militarily untouchable through strategic shard selection. Imagine controlling rare resource processing on three different regional shards simultaneously. Competitors couldn't attack all your operations at once because they exist in different server ecosystems. But this also means the richest players will have unfair advantages. They can afford bases in multiple regions, while solo players get stuck with single vulnerable locations. The Spectrum forums have been buzzing with concerns about immersion-breaking server transfers versus brilliant conflict management that finally solves offline raiding. Reddit's split between calling it innovative and overcomplicated. Longtime backers recognize this as classic CIG, taking standard MEMO problems and creating completely novel solutions nobody else would attempt. When they said they weren't building a game but a universe, this shard system embodies that philosophy. Whether that's good or bad depends entirely on execution, and CIG's track record with complex systems is mixed. Choose your primary region based on when you typically play, not just ping times. Night owls in the US should consider European shards, where late night hours align with peak activity periods. You'll have more potential customers but also more potential raiders. Coordinate with your org to designate shard anchors, trusted members who stay online in specific shards to control where raids can occur. This becomes a legitimate military role within organizations. Large organizations should establish bases in multiple regions strategically. Main fortress in one region, resource operations in another, commercial hubs wherever traffic peaks. Base location isn't just about resource nodes anymore, it's about server politics, time zones, and regional player populations. The best mining spot means nothing if you can't defend it because you're always on the wrong shard when attacks happen. Smart players will study server population patterns like stock market trends, so you understand shard-based land claims, transfer mechanics, and strategic implications that will reshape Star Citizen's endgame before most players even know base building exists. The question becomes, which region will you choose and how will you coordinate across multiple shards? Drop a comment about whether this system sounds brilliant or exploitable. The community needs to solve these problems before CIG does, because their solutions usually create three new problems. And thanks for thinking through Star Citizen's most complex upcoming system before it launches. These implications affect every aspect of how organizations will operate in the persistent universe. Understanding these systems early gives you advantages when everyone else is still figuring out the basics. In the verse, knowledge isn't just power, it's the difference between building an empire and watching someone else build one on your grave.